All right, everyone, welcome back to Book to Read. You know how we left things in Catching Fire with, well, everything kind of exploding? Well, that's where Mockingjay picks up. Episode 36. We're in the thick of it now, the final book of the Hunger Games trilogy.
Yeah, no easing into things here. Straight into the chaos.
Right. And to guide us through this emotional roller coaster, we're sticking with the source material, diving deep into the book itself. No spoilers, promise.
Although anyone who's read Catching Fire knows there are no happy endings in Panem.
True that. But there's hope, maybe. I mean, that's what the rebellion's all about, right?
I guess we'll see. But first, we gotta pick up the pieces. Literally.
Yeah, District 12. Gone. Reduced to ashes by the Capitol, Katniss barely escapes with her life.
And finds herself in District 13, this mysterious underground world that's been whispered about but never seen.
A stark contrast to the flamboyant capital, and even to the simple life in District 12.
Completely. Talk about culture shock. Life in 13 is all about rules, discipline, resource management. They've been living underground for decades, after the first rebellion.
Wow, yeah. Makes sense. They're all about survival, down to the last crumb.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But speaking of survival, remember how they welcomed the District 12 refugees with open arms?
Yeah. Seemed almost too good to be true.
Well, we learned from a refugee, a guy named Dalton, that District 13 needs those refugees for more than just sympathy.
Ooh.
Turns out a pox epidemic hit 13 hard a while back.
Uh-oh.
Left a lot of them infertile. They need new breeding stock, as he puts it. Chilling, huh?
Yeah, wow. Definitely adds a layer of complexity to their hospitality.
Yeah.
But let's talk about Katniss, the girl on fire.
Right, because she's the one everyone in 13 is looking to.
To lead them to victory,
Yeah.
right? To become the Mockingjay, the symbol of rebellion.
Yeah. President Coin, the leader of 13, sees Katniss as their key to winning this whole thing.
And why is that?
Think about it. She survived 2 Hunger Games. She's a symbol of defiance against the Capitol.
Yeah, she's the girl who refused to play by their rules. The one who dared to fight back.
Exactly. She's a beacon of hope to the oppressed districts.
But can she really handle that kind of pressure?
Well, she's reluctant, that's for sure. I mean, she's traumatized, lost her home, and is worried sick about Peeta, who's been captured by the Capitol.
Who wouldn't be?
Right. She's carrying a lot of weight, and being the face of a rebellion isn't exactly a walk in the park.
It's more like walking into another arena, honestly.
Yeah.
But she does agree to be the Mockingjay.
Eventually, yeah. But not without setting some conditions. Remember what she demands from President Coin?
Oh, yeah. Immunity for the captured victors, including Peeta, Johanna, Enobaria, and Annie.
Right. It's a major point of tension between them, Shows just how different their priorities are.
Katniss, always putting people first, even in this crazy war. And Coin, well, she's all about strategy.
Definitely. It's like a clash of ideologies, compassion versus pragmatism.
Exactly. And that sets the stage for some really interesting power dynamics as the rebellion gains momentum. But before we get into that, let's talk about how this war is playing out in the media.
Oh yeah, the propaganda war. Because it's not just about fighting on the ground, it's about winning hearts and minds.
Right. It's a battle of images and narratives.
Right.
And that's where the propos come in, those short propaganda films starring, you guessed it, Katniss.
Aims to inspire the districts and, basically demoralize the Capitol.
And they managed to get a pretty significant advantage, right?
Oh, absolutely. Remember BT?
The tech whiz from District 3.
Yeah. Yeah, he figures out how to hack into the Capitol's broadcast system.
Game changer.
It's amazing, right? They turn the Capitol's own tools against them. Suddenly, they're able to show the districts the truth about the war.
And expose the Capitol's cruelty for what it really is. And Finnick. He really steps up, too.
Oh, Finnick. He becomes this powerful voice revealing the secrets he learned while being exploited by President Snow.
I mean, years of being a Capitol darling gave him access to some pretty scandalous information.
Exactly. And he doesn't hold back. His propos are devastating, stripping away the Capitol's facade and showing the people just how corrupt their leaders are.
But the Capitol doesn't take this lying down.
Oh no, they fight back and they fight dirty. And this is where the psychological warfare gets really, really intense.
Because they go after the one person who can truly break Katniss.
Peeta. They capture him, torture him, and twist his memories into weapons.
It's heartbreaking.
It is. They force him to broadcast these messages calling for a ceasefire, but they're filled with these fabricated memories. They paint Katniss as this Capitol-created monster.
It's a cruel manipulation designed to destroy Katniss from the inside out. And she's already dealing with so much.
Right. The trauma, the loss, the weight of the rebellion on her shoulders. And now this. It's like a punch to the gut.
Absolutely. And you see it wearing on her, the doubt, the guilt, the fear of losing Peeta.
And then there's the white rose, this recurring symbol that adds another layer of creepiness.
The white rose.
Yeah, it represents Snow's control, Peeta's manipulated state. It's like a constant reminder that even though he's physically alive, a part of him is still a prisoner of the Capitol.
Chillin'. So we've got a rebellion on the rise, a propaganda war in full swing, and Katniss caught in the middle of this psychological tug of war.
And all of this is just a prelude to the final showdown with the Capitol.
We're about to enter the arena one last time, folks, and trust me, it's going to be epic. But we're going to need to take a little detour before we dive into that.
A detour.
Well, you know how sometimes you get so engrossed in a book, so caught up in the characters and their struggles.
Yeah, it can be pretty intense.
And sometimes you just need to talk it out with someone who gets it right.
For sure.
Well, that's what the Bookspace is all about. This is an amazing app, a community for book lovers to connect, share thoughts, organize their reading lists, geek out together over their favorite quotes.
Yeah, I love the virtual bookshelf feature. You can create your dream library right there on your phone.
Totally. So if you're feeling overwhelmed by the emotional roller coaster that is Mockingjay, head over to Bookspace. You can find people who are just as passionate about the book as you are, share your theories, your anxieties. I mean, let's be real, Mockingjay is not a light read. You need a support group.
Exactly. Bookspace is like the ultimate book club.
All right, enough about apps and support groups. We're going back into the arena.
Let's do this.
We left off with Katniss facing some pretty tough choices, especially when it comes to Gale and his, increasingly ruthless ideas about winning the war.
Yeah, he's definitely gone down a dark path. You can see how the Capitol's brutality has twisted his thinking.
He's become so focused on victory that he's willing to risk civilian casualties. Remember that scene where he suggests using those bombs that attract medics?
Oh man, that was brutal. It really blurred the lines between the rebels and the Capitol.
Yeah, it made me question the whole point of the rebellion. Like, can you really achieve a just society if you're using the same tactics as your oppressors?
Right, it's like that age-old question, does the end justify the means?
And this whole thing creates this huge rift between Gale and Katniss. She's horrified by his ideas,
It's a clash of their core values. Katniss, even with all her anger and hatred towards Snow, still has this strong sense of morality. She's not willing to sacrifice innocent lives, even if it means delaying the victory.
And this tension between them, it plays out against this backdrop of some seriously messed up situations. I mean, those genetically engineered mutts, pure nightmare fuel.
Right, like something straight out of a horror movie. Collins really knows how to create a sense of dread.
And then there's that scene with the children. Oh my God, I still get chills just thinking about it.
Yeah, the bombing. It's like a punch to the gut, a stark reminder of just how cruel and senseless war can be.
Remember how it happens. The Capitol uses their own children as human shields, which is just horrific in itself. And then this hovercraft shows up, drops supplies with those familiar parachutes, the ones we saw in the first book. Symbols of hope, except
they're packed with bombs.
Yeah. It wipes out the children, the medics who rush in to help. Just devastating.
And Collins does this brilliant thing where she leaves it unclear who's responsible.
Right. Was it the Capitol sacrificing their own children to demonize the rebels? Or did the rebels themselves cross a line and use that brutal tactic?
It's one of those moments where you realize that in war, sometimes there are no good guys. It's just shades of gray.
And for Katniss, it's a breaking point. She's already lost so much, and now she's questioning everything she thought she knew about the rebellion.
And it leads to that incredible but controversial climax. The rebels finally capture President Snow. They win, but at a terrible cost.
So many lives lost. Prim, Finnick.
And the victory feels hollow, tainted by all the violence and the moral compromises they made along the way.
Right. You can't help but wonder, what kind of future can you build on a foundation of so much loss and pain?
It's a question that haunts the ending.
And then, just when you think it's over, President Coin drops this bombshell. She wants to hold another Hunger Games.
Yeah, using the Capitol's children as tribute.
It's like history repeating itself.
Yeah.
All that fighting, all those sacrifices, and they end up right back where they started.
But Katniss, she's had enough. She sees where this is heading.
So she makes a decision that shocks everyone. She kills Coin.
A truly stunning moment.
On one hand, she prevents further bloodshed, breaks that cycle of violence.
But on the other, she takes a life. Which raises all these questions about justice, about leadership, about the role of individuals in shaping history.
It's such a complex act with so many different interpretations.
And it leaves us with this unsettling feeling, right? That maybe there are no easy answers.
Yeah, Mockingjay doesn't offer any simple solutions. It just leaves us with these questions, these challenges, this sense of responsibility.
Responsibility for what?
For shaping the world we want to live in, for making sure the mistakes of the past aren't repeated.
It's a heavy burden, but one that we all share, and that's what makes Mockingjay so powerful. It doesn't just tell a story, it forces us to confront our own beliefs and biases.
It makes us think about the consequences of our actions, about the choices we make in the face of injustice.
And it reminds us that the fight for freedom is never truly over.
It's a continuous process, one that requires constant vigilance, critical thinking, and a willingness to challenge those in power.
And sometimes it even means questioning the people we thought were on our side.
So we've talked a lot about the heavy stuff, the war, the trauma, the moral dilemmas, but there's also a lot of beauty in Mockingjay.
Yeah, absolutely. The resilience of the human spirit, the power of love and hope, even in the darkest of times.
Like Katniss and Peeta finding their way back to each other, their journey back to District 12.
Yeah, and that image of them planting those primroses in the ruins, such a powerful symbol of new beginnings.
It's a reminder that even after the worst kind of destruction, life can still find a way to bloom again.
And that maybe, just maybe, there's hope for Panem after all.
But we want to hear from you, the listeners.
What are your thoughts on Mockingjay? What resonated with you the most? What left you scratching your head?
Head over to the Bookspace app, create your profile, it's super easy, and join the conversation.
Bookspace is like a giant book club where you can connect with other passionate readers, share your thoughts, geek out over your favorite books.
Seriously, it's the best way to process all the emotions and ideas that Mockingjay throws at you.
Plus, you can organize your library, discover new books, and even trade recommendations with other users.
So what are you waiting for? Download Bookspace today and join the Mockingjay discussion. We can't wait to hear your thoughts.
And that's a wrap for this episode of Book to Read. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Mockingjay.
Until next time, happy reading.
Welcome back.
So we left off with Katniss and her squad, fighting their way through the Capitol. It's like one giant death trap.
Oh yeah, the Capitol's defenses. Designed by the game makers, no less.
Oh God, those game makers. It's also twisted, using their skills to create these elaborate traps to kill people.
I know, it's like the arenas all over again, only this time it's the whole city.
Remember those pods they encounter? Like exploding buildings, flesh-eating rats, black tar even, and those mutated creatures, mutts.
Yeah, the mutts were terrifying. Those descriptions in the book, I swear they'll haunt my dreams forever.
Seriously. And there's this one point where things take a really, really dark turn. Remember Boggs? Katniss's commander?
Yeah, what about him?
Well, he's hit by one of those pod traps, fatally wounded. But before he dies, he does something pretty incredible.
What's that?
He transfers his authority to Katniss, gives her control of the squad and this hollow, this device with all the rebel plans.
So now she's in charge. Wow, that's a lot of pressure.
I know, right? She's suddenly responsible for making these life or death decisions, leading the charge against the Capitol.
Talk about a trial by fire.
Exactly. But as the rebellion gets closer to victory, you start to see these moral complexities emerge. It's not as simple as good versus evil anymore.
Yeah, that's where things get really interesting. Because you have characters like Gale who are so consumed by the brutality of the Capitol that they start proposing some pretty ruthless tactics.
And this creates a lot of conflict, especially between Gale and Katniss.
Definitely. Because she's horrified by his ideas. Remember that scene where he proposes using those bombs that attract medics, knowing that civilians will be caught in the crossfire?
Yeah, it was chilling. You could see that Gale was losing sight of the bigger picture.
It's like the violence had warped his sense of morality.
Exactly. And it raises this crucial question. Can a rebellion remain just when faced with overwhelming brutality?
Right. Does it inevitably become a mirror of the enemy it seeks to overthrow?
And that's the dilemma at the heart of Mockingjay, isn't it? The line between good and evil starts to blur.
And you're left wondering, what's the point of fighting if you become just as bad as the people you're fighting against?
Yeah. And this conflict between Gale and Katniss, it really highlights their different philosophies. She's still clinging to her humanity, her belief in the sanctity of life. But he's become desensitized to the violence. Yeah. It's like he's accepted it as a necessary evil.
And it's heartbreaking because you can see how much this war has changed him. He's not the same Gale who volunteered for the reaping to protect his family.
Yeah, it's like the Capitol has taken something precious from him, something irreplaceable. But even with all this internal conflict, the rebellion does eventually succeed.
They capture President Snow, overthrow the Capitol, but the victory is bittersweet, to say the least.
It comes at a huge cost. So many lives lost, so much destruction.
And the ending, well, it's not exactly a happy one.
It's more like a punch in the gut, honestly. President Coin, the leader of the rebellion, she proposes holding another Hunger Games.
Oh my God, I remember that. Using the Capitol's children as tribute.
It's like everything they fought for, all those sacrifices, were for nothing.
This cycle of violence, it's just repeating itself. But Katniss, she sees where this is headed. And she does something drastic.
She kills Coin.
Such a powerful moment. I mean, She stops the Hunger Games, prevents more bloodshed, but at the same time, she takes a life.
It's an act that's open to so many interpretations.
Right. Is she a hero, a murderer, a savior, a tyrant?
Mockingjay doesn't give us easy answers.
Which is what makes it so brilliant and so disturbing. It leaves you with this feeling that there are no simple solutions to complex problems.
Yeah, the ending is really thought-provoking. It forces you to confront your own beliefs about justice, about what it means to be a leader, about the responsibility we all have to prevent history from repeating itself. Okay, so where do we even begin after that ending? I mean, Katniss killing Coin, that's a game changer.
Totally. And it throws the whole rebellion into chaos. What happens to Panem now?
Well, a new government forms, obviously. But there's this trial, right? They put Katniss on trial for Coin's murder.
Yeah, it's this whole thing about whether she was justified or if she's a criminal. It's pretty intense. I mean, she did save lives by stopping the Hunger Games, but...
But she also killed a leader, someone who, let's face it, was instrumental in the rebellion's success.
Exactly. So it's this whole ethical dilemma, right? Where do you draw the line? When is it okay to break the rules, even for a good cause?
Yeah. And it's interesting how Katniss doesn't try to defend herself, really. She just sort of accepts whatever punishment they decide on.
It's like she's so emotionally exhausted at that point, like she can't even fight anymore.
Yeah, she's carrying so much guilt and trauma. The weight of everything she's been through is just crushing.
And in the end, they declare her innocent based on, well, reasons that aren't entirely clear. Maybe they realized punishing her would create more problems than it solved.
Probably. I mean, she's still the Mockingjay, a symbol of hope for so many people. But what happens to her after the trial? Does she stay in the Capitol? Become some kind of political figure?
She actually goes back to District 12.
Really? But it's destroyed. There's nothing left.
I know, right? But she chooses to go back, along with Peeta, who's also recovering from the trauma of being hijacked by the Capitol.
So they go back to this place that represents so much loss and pain.
Yeah.
Why? What do you think dragged them back there?
I think it's about finding some sense of normalcy, some connection to their past. District 12 might be in ruins, but it's still home.
It's a powerful image, right? Two broken people trying to rebuild their lives in a broken place.
And there's that scene where they plant those primroses in the meadow, right?
Yeah, those flowers named after Prim, Katniss's little sister. So much symbolism packed into that one act.
It's like a symbol of hope, of rebirth, life finding a way to bloom again, even in the ashes.
But the book ends on a somewhat ambiguous note, doesn't it? I mean, the Capitol's defeated, a new government's in place, but
there's no guarantee that things will be better, right? The potential for corruption, for tyranny, is always there. History has a way of repeating itself.
And that's what makes Mockingjay such a powerful and thought-provoking book. It doesn't give us easy answers or happy endings. It leaves us with these questions, these challenges.
It asks us to consider what we're willing to fight for, what sacrifices we're willing to make.
And it reminds us that the fight for freedom, for justice, is never truly over. It's an ongoing process that requires constant vigilance and a willingness to challenge the status quo.
It's a message that resonates just as strongly today as it did when the book was first published. We still face so many of the same challenges, the same struggles against oppression and injustice.
So we want to hear from you, the listeners. What are your thoughts on Mockingjay? Did Katniss make the right choice in killing Coin? What does the ending mean to you? Head over to Bookspace, create your profile, and join the conversation.
It's a great place to connect with other passionate readers, share your thoughts, and maybe even find some answers to those tough questions that Mockingjay raises.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you found it insightful, maybe even a little bit challenging.
And until next time, happy reading!